So, why don't we, we'll bring the meeting, the Auburn Water District Trustee meeting of October 16, 2024 to order at 4 p.m. Would someone like to approve, I guess, do we have to discuss this first or just approve it?
Well,
we've got to approve it first.
I would like to, well, you can have your motion in second and then I can bring up something.
Let's do that. Will someone approve the minutes of the regular meeting of September 18, 2024?
I make a motion, or so moved.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Right.
Discussion.
On discussion, now again, you guys were all here at the last meeting. It was a rather long meeting. I did dismiss Diane halfway through the meeting, and I was keeping the notes for the second half of the meeting. And on page 3, when it came to the motion to appoint Dan Bilodeau as trustee representative to the commission, I started taking notes in some of the discussion of the vote. And then the discussion went on for quite a while, and I stopped keeping notes because there was quite a bit of back and forth. And the notes that I took really kind of only showed one side of a discussion. Obviously, you see the minutes that I distributed with the packet showed the comments made by Trustee Harmon, but it did not show the rebuttal or the comments from other trustees. So I did go back and reviewed the video, and I did add that. So basically what I've added, and I've got another version here if anybody wants to pass this around and look, I did add that Dan Bilodeau reported that he never received notice of violation, and that there was no disregard to watershed protection rules because he followed state standards. Dan also pointed out that there has been no concern of pollution regarding the campsites on his property. Dan showed a plan that he was updated for his site, including the campsites. I also put in President Paulina questioned if a formal notice of violation was issued, and it was confirmed that it had not been. So, and I also added in, Trustee Bergeron referring he's still willing and able to serve the commission. Again, there's a lot of back and forth. Generally, we don't put every comment from every trustee in the minutes. Not every comment goes in, but when somebody says, I want to make a statement, I try to record that and do our best to put that in. But you can't do something like that and not show both sides. So I think I've got that in this version if you guys don't want to look at that or consider it further, but it is accurate per the video and for what happened. And it doesn't change or reflect any change on the vote. So.
And that's on the district website if someone wants to look at it or print it.
And once it's approved, these are the minutes. So I guess you guys want to make that amendment?
So, was someone, that was just what I was going to say. We need an amendment.
Not made?
Well, I distributed the original draft. I did not distribute to everyone this comment.
Gotcha.
So the motion was made from what was pre-distributed.
Okay.
So if someone would make an amendment to this, adding Mike's narrative to this, would someone add that to the minutes of the regular meeting of September 18, 2024?
I would make. You're the chairman.
Yeah, I just want to finish this one off.
No.
Soon.
I move the amended language.
Discussion?
There's a second.
Second if you need it.
Thank you. Second, right? Second.
So as Mike's
Second.
written in
As
this
I read.
version.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now discussion. No discussion? All in favor? So now we have financial report.
Okay. Thanks, Bob. Sorry I'm late. Financial report update.
Light
right.
Hotel Road.
Unfortunately, we do not have financial reports from Maine Rural Water. They were not able to complete those in time, and I never got them, so they'll have to be added to the agenda for the November meeting. So yes, we do not have a financial update at this time.
Is it appropriate to address again a reminder of the hire?
I have that in staff update.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, next on the agenda is public comment. Is there any no members of the public here? I guess we'll move on from that one.
You see the sign out there, it's nice.
Activity report and project update.
All right, your activity report, project update. Again, with Matt being out, we do not have the activity report, so we will get a big updated version of that in November. Projects, everything has gone really well. All of our big construction projects on Marion, 4th Street have been completed. The project out on Hotel Road, which did involve a lot of work around gate valve tops, service boxes, that all work is wrapping up, so that is all good. We did have 2 water main breaks back on September 28th. It was an early Saturday morning. One of the breaks occurred in New Auburn off Mill Street. We have a 24-inch main that goes across the Little Androscoggin, and then there's a 12-inch main that ties off it, runs down Mill Street, excuse me. And that main broke. Being such a large main and being off such a much larger pipe, it created a water ham in our system, which subsequently broke another pipe over on High Street. So we were scrambling a little bit to get them isolated. The break on Mill Street, we wound up having to replace 12 feet of pipe because it had a fracture right down the bottom of it. Again, under a lot of pressure. It was old cast iron pipe, and it just made the repair difficult. Both of them lost a substantial amount of water. We lost a couple million gallons of water between the 2 breaks, and it was coming out pretty fast. We did issue boil water orders to both areas, and we took bacteria samples and then lifted the boil water order within 36 hours of the break. So everything was handled and taken care of, and everything is back in the service. So I have that to report. I did want to bring this to your attention. This summer we did purchase a new Vector truck. This was purchased through a SRF grant loan that we received. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of problems with the truck. The truck has been back to the manufacturer more than it's been here and in service. And it's been more of a hindrance to getting work done than it has been helping us.
The work is all under warranty, right?
The work has all been covered under warranty, but it's cost us a significant amount of time and money because we were banking on having that for projects, and when we don't have it, we got to cancel the work and reschedule. I was hoping to have made a lot more progress on our lead and copper investigations, but without a truck, we couldn't do it.
But it's back.
It's back now. Unfortunately, the paving season's coming to an end, the construction season's coming to an end, and I just can't go out and dig holes like I could if we'd had the truck a few months ago.
Did the manufacturer give you a list of what they repaired?
I do have a detailed list of what was repaired, and I have asked for reparations to the district for the loss of the equipment. Again, we paid for something that basically we didn't have. They haven't offered anything, but I'm not done. I do feel like we're owed something, whether it be maybe a little bit further extended warranty or maybe some service, but this really did cost us quite a bit, and it's really out of our control. So anyways, I just wanted to report it to you, just so you're aware. That's what I have for project update.
On the water main break, did you say 12 million gallons?
No, 2 million
2
gallons.
million gallons.
Yep.
That's what it cost to fight the big fire out on Mount Auburn Avenue. 2 million gallons, right?
That one I was thinking was 4 million gallons.
Whoa.
Yeah, we use a lot of water on that one.
LA's still pulling about 8 million gallons a day.
You mean
Lewiston
and Auburn? Yeah, we average about 2.5 MGD, and Lewiston is roughly 4.5, 5. So
7.5.
yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking for proportion.
On the truck, have you kept a record of all of the extra expenses?
Yes.
And have you talked to legal?
That's where I was thinking about going next with it. We did use Skelton and Tainer, their bond counsel, to close on this. And to be honest, that's where I was kind of going with it. They haven't answered me with my request for reparations, and I just thought, maybe talking with our bond counsel on that. I mean, obviously they have insight on the terms of the agreement. Maybe a legal letter would help us, garnish something. Because it really has cost the district a significant, we lost a lot of time on projects.
They may go along with the extended, if not reparation monetary, they may go along with extended guarantee.
It's worth a try.
That would be good, because if we had problems now, months from now, who knows what's going to go wrong then.
Right, it comes with a 1-year warranty, but maybe we deserve 2 years out of this, because for the first 6 months it's been back at the shop. So, anyways. Yeah, that's what I have on project update. I will talk with Skelton and Tainer about this.
It's a good idea, Jeff.
definitely. Good. All right, moving on to new business. The first is the 2025 budget.
All right, I did not think I was gonna have this for tonight, but here it is. I pass it around in advance. Maine Rural Water has worked to pull this draft together. I did receive it yesterday afternoon, right about the time I got out of the sewer trustee meeting. I did have the sewer one for that board last night as well. I will tell you, I have been through this just once. Our new finance director is just started going through this today as well. I have a number of things that I need to do to this. I need to look into our UV power costs because obviously we paid a lot more in '24 than what we had averaged, and we need to determine if that's just a rate increase or what is going on driving up our power costs there. I also need to factor in the chemical costs up at the UV plant for '25. Unfortunately, there's a number of things going on internationally with some rail strikes that are affecting chemical costs. The prices are going up, so I've got to adjust that and reflect that in the budget. With Matt coming back yesterday, I met with him today, and we need to work on our capital projections for 2025, so we can factor that in here. One of the other things that I reported to the sewer board was the state of Maine adopted a new law that affects the Family Medical Leave Act. And it requires that all employees contribute 1% of their gross earnings that gets paid to the state for FML. So when somebody files for leave, they would actually get reimbursed from a fund at the state. So what it means is that all employees are going to get hit with this 1% deduction in their pay. I do not have that reflected in this budget, us collecting that money and then distributing it to the state, but I've got to get that worked in. I did put the 2.5.
Before you go on from that,
Yep.
the district has to pay 0.5% and the employee pays 0.5%. It's not 1% from the employee. And the employer can opt to pay all of it.
Okay.
So you want to check on that.
I didn't know it was 1%.
It is 1%,
And
but it's split.
I did get a call from a guy who works for the Portland Water District, and they're polling all utilities to see what they're doing. They basically asked me, is Auburn going to pay the full 1%? Are you going to pay half, or are you going to, I believe we can elect to not pay any of it, and the employee pay the full 1%.
Well, I don't think so.
Okay.
I would call Phil
Yeah.
and see if you can talk to the HR director, because I didn't go to the session at the MMA conference, but the HR director and another person, she's been working on this for quite a while.
Yeah.
And the briefing at the city was the city pays a half, employee pays a half, the city can pay all of it. And the reason they're doing that survey, probably the cities are all doing the same thing, is it's a competition thing. If the other water districts are saying, I'll pay the whole thing.
Right.
So I'm sure they'll be happy to give you a rundown on
Yeah, okay, I'll definitely look into that, but it is something that we need to figure out in what we do for next year. Obviously, you hate to hear that, the employees would have a net loss of either 0.5% or 1%. So I will get some clarity on that, and that's something we got to factor into the budget. So just want you to be aware of that.
I'd like us to have discussion tonight too, Jeff, about the district paying the 0.5% for the employees, for the workers.
Okay.
And if we're amenable to that. And the other thing is too, if we do that, are you gonna put a line item in here for that?
Yes,
Yeah, so
it
that's
has to be
something
accounted for in our budget.
that's gonna have to be, so.
Well, yeah, so to follow up on Bob, I think once we get the numbers, Mike can get the numbers and say, hey, this is how much we're gonna have to pay, this is how much the employee's gonna have to pay. We can see what the number is, see how it fits in the budget, and then decide whether the district wants to cover the 0.5% for the employee.
Good.
Again, not looking for any decisions on this. What I hope is that you all just take this draft from tonight's meeting. If you have time between now and November, take a look at these. If you have any questions, please email me directly. I will work on those with our finance director, and I will answer the questions, and I'll reply to all, so you'll all see whoever asked me what question and how we answered it and how we'll address it in the draft budget for November. Again, I know we're on a tight time frame. We're kind of a little bit behind. I would have rather given you this draft in September, but I do feel like it's going to be we're going to have our next meeting in November. We may want, if there's things that are unsettled, we may need to have a budget workshop in the end of December or early December. I'm sorry, end of November or early December, and then before our regular meetings in December, just so we're all on the same page and we're in agreement.
Because
on budgets.
we're expecting to adopt this at the regular meeting in December.
That's the hope,
Yeah.
that we pass a budget.
Yeah.
And so you can put a temporary line item in the 2025 budget for the cost
Yes.
of that?
Yes, we're gonna add that.
So the option is there, should we choose to pursue it?
Yes.
Good.
Yep. So yeah, that's what I had for notes on this draft. But again, if you have any questions or any concerns about this, please email me, and like I said, I will send the question and the reply to everybody, so you'll all see that conversation. But just be careful if don't reply all, and we can't have an open conversation about this by email. So that's what I got on the budget.
Okay. Next up, water meters.
All right, water meters. I do have a presentation for you. I really apologize to the trustees who were at the sewer meeting last night. I did give a rundown on this to the sewer trustees as well, because this does affect them. So water meters. Why we're talking about this. The district currently owns 6,800 meters. Meter data is used to calculate usage for both the water and sewer bills. The district conducted a mass water meter changeout starting in 2009. The replacement project took 4 years to complete. We took out 2 bonds, each for $1 million, and we did this in basically 2 phases. We have 4 meter books. We replaced 2 books per phase. From 2009 to 2013, the district installed what was called census SR2 meters, and I meant to bring in demos to show you. They're in the other room if you'd like to see them after the meeting. But SR2 meters they're a brass body, and they have components in the center of the meter that oscillate as the water goes through. So it's mechanical parts that relies on the pressure and flow of the water to oscillate the chamber to register for each gallon that goes through the meter. With moving parts comes failures. The district's metering equipment included a vehicle-based radio that is capable of reading meters via line of sight radio technology. And I will tell you, back in 2009, we were ahead of the technology curve. We were one of the first districts that went ahead with this and had radio read technology from an early basis. So we led the curve. We don't anymore. Essentially, our crews, like if we're reading a book today, if we're reading book 80, if we're reading cycle 1, cycle 2, or cycle 3, we load those reads into the radio in the truck, we go out, we drive the route, and just by driving one street, you pick up all the reads in the neighborhood, and roughly in an 8-hour period, you can read an entire book or a cycle. So it's relatively fast. Before this, they used to go out and go into every basement and write down the read of every meter in every house in Auburn. We had keys to every house in town, and we just went into the basements and read meters prior to this. So, my how much we've changed. Again, this radio that was installed greatly reduced staff time. We used to have a staff of 4 employees in our meter department back when we read the meters in every house. We now only have 1 meter foreman. In 2014, EPA prohibited the use or installation of leaded brass. So brass used to be manufactured with a small amount of, less than 5% brass was used in the metallic mixture that makes up brass. In 2014, that was outlawed, and manufacturers of meters switched from brass bodies to a plastic, more modern style meter that utilizes ultrasonic, which is like telemetry, radio frequencies to measure the velocity of the water through the chamber. So these meters that we're installing now are called Census iPearl meters. They're the standard that we use now.
Do you want me to go grab one of each while you keep this going?
They're in that little white tub right inside the meter room. The iPearl meters are made of composite materials and have no internal moving parts, utilizing ultrasonic. They're guaranteed accurate for a period of 20 years. The meters that we installed in 2009 were only guaranteed accurate for 5 years. And from 5 to 10 years, they were only guaranteed 95% accurate. After 10 years of age, there was an assumption that they could be as bad as only 85% accurate. So that meter right there is a new iPearl meter. If you take off those blue caps, you will see there's no moving parts inside there. That's an old SR2 meter. This is the chamber that's on the inside. Again, if you can see how these get dirty, and it relies on oscillation to calculate every usage. And you can hear that squeaking noise. The dirtier the meter is, the older the meter gets, the less accurate it is. And when I say a meter is not accurate, it's not accurate it's to our detriment and to the customer's favor. So essentially we're not registering all the water that people are using. In 2019, the manufacturer of the census meters notified us that they changed their MXUs, which is the outside reader. That's what transmits the read from the meter to our radio in the truck. The new MXUs were capable of being installed in the basement, so they used to be installed on the outside of the house, transmitted to the truck. They now can be installed inside. You don't need to drill holes through people's houses and run wires. You can install them inside, and they're stronger. They can transmit through the house out to the truck driving by or to a tower. Unfortunately, the new manufacturing of those MXUs was on a different radio frequency, so we had to buy a second radio. So now our truck has 2 radios in it, one that reads the new MXUs, one that reads the old MXUs. So that's the current equipment that we have. In 2023, we were notified that our vendor, EJ Prescott, was cutting ties with census meters. So the meters that we've been putting in for the last 15, 20 years are no longer going to be sold by the vendor that we've been using. So unfortunately, it all came down to a supply and demand issue. Census was unable to meet it with the demands. I think it all came down to microchips or something like that in the meters. The bottom line is we were ordering meters and we weren't getting them. And it wasn't just us, it was the entire state, it was the entire country. People just weren't getting meters. So EJP's cut ties with them. Current challenges. I might have rambled on and talked about some of these things. There's the accuracy of the meters. I already talked about that. In our last PUC report, every year we do a PUC report. It runs down on all of our revenues. Basically, how much water do we sell? How much money do we collect? One factor that you always come out from your PUC report is your unaccounted for water. So if I pump a billion gallons of water from Lake Auburn in a year, I'm only selling 700 million. Where's the other 30% going? It's unaccounted for water. Sometimes this can be, tossed off as well. You had a water leak, you had a fire. Well, we factored that all in, and our unaccounted for water is still 30%. I believe a large portion of this number is the meters. Our larger diameter meters, 1.5 to 6 inch, are the most susceptible to accuracy loss, especially at the lower flow rates. If you have the old Edward Little High School, there was a 2-inch meter in there that fed the old school. When we pulled that out before they demoed the building, we ran it through the test bench, and on the low flow rate, it was only 87% accurate. So that means when somebody's in there just drinking from the drinking fountain or flushing 1 or 2 toilets in some of the bathrooms, our meter, this chamber was sitting there stuck frozen while the water flowed through the meter. It wasn't doing the oscillation. It didn't have enough velocity because of the age to make it work. And I'm just using that as an example. So it's a problem. It's a challenge. New technologies with meter. I dare say in the water and sewer industry there are no other devices that have progressed more than water meters. They really have gone a long ways in the last few years. The newer design meters, even outside of the Census iPearl, you no longer have to have, one thing I don't have here for you to see is what the MXU looks like. The newer meters, the MXU is built into the meter. So I no longer even have to worry about a wire or hooking up some MXU.
That's the rectangle box on the outside.
That's the rectangle box that's on your house. It's probably white, and it should be somewhere where your electric meter is, usually. So the newer design meters are guaranteed for a period of 20 years. This has even been recognized by the PUC. They've changed their rules. It used to be a requirement that you must pull and test all meters every 8 years. PUC has changed their standard on that to say, whatever meters you use, you got to follow the manufacturer's recommendations. If the recommendations are they're good for 20 years, then you don't have to worry about it, every 8 years.
Like, what percentage of these versus the old ones?
We have about 1,500 iPearls or newer style meters, as opposed to, we have a total of 6,800. So you got,
So it's
40. Yeah, your majority is the old meters.
Are those the ones you have? Are they have the wire to the outside, or are they internalized?
99% of them are all wired to the outside. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Only in the last year have we been putting them on the inside since they updated that. So another thing that's progressed is what's called AMI. AMI is Advanced Metering Infrastructure. This allows for, rather than having your radios in your truck, you do tower-based radios. So up at Goff Hill, we would have a transmitter. We would, from the office, be able to log into census meter reading equipment. We could enter and we could read all the water meters in the system. We can also set the system up to, the meters actually have new technologies in them. They can do leak detection. They can report high usage. They can report low usage. They can report back that they've frozen. There's a lot of technology in the meters that doesn't exist in the old SR2s. So all of these things, if you as a customer wanted to set up a portal, you can log in, create an account. Dan Bilodeau, I live at this address. Here's my MXU number. You could get the alert on your email that, hey, your meter froze.
Right.
Hey, you had a high usage yesterday. This was very intriguing to Steve Milks, who's a sewer trustee who owns several apartment buildings, and he expressed, he personally has had issues with his apartment buildings, tenants intentionally running water to drive up his bill. Well, now he could get alerts to this. This is very appealing, and we have a lot of commercial. Believe it or not, we have
People put their showers on hot just to get that heat. Sometimes.
But not to go down that rabbit hole, a lot of commercial customers have reached out to us and asked us if they could set this up, but at this time we don't have that capability because we don't have AMI. So this is happening in water systems all around the state. Actually, Lewiston is currently so they've already installed one tower and they're putting in all at these advanced meters that are capable of AMI. So here's the breakdown, the numbers of the 6,800 meters. 64 are over 20 years old, 450 are 15 to 20 years old, and 5,300 are 10 to 15 years old. And basically right now they would be, and if PUC came down here and audited our meters, we'd be found at fault, like, hey, you got 5,300 meters that don't meet the requirements. The remaining meters, as you had asked, are less than 10 years old and are likely accurate. So not a lot of meters are really working well for us. We have 256 meters that are 1.5 to 6 inches. The remaining meters are 5/8 to 1 inch. Replacement strategies. So I'm building this all up and I'm telling you all about meters because I really feel like I want to steer the district towards a course of determining how we want to deal with our meters and replace them. So I came up with 3 strategies talking with different vendors and different water utilities. We could take a strategy where we budget every year about $320,000 and we plan on replacing 300 to 350 meters a year. The $320,000 covers the cost of the actual meters, and we would have to add another staff person because replacing 350 meters a year, if you cut out the holidays, weekends, vacation times, you got to average 2 to 3 meters a day of replacing. That actually takes quite a bit of work and coordination and getting into homes. And our current meter foreman is actually quite busy just doing reads, doing follow-up, final reads, and we really don't have we don't have room to add in a schedule replacing 3 meters a day. The problems with this strategy would be, well, only 300 meters a year, how long is it going to take us to get caught up? Well, as you saw from the previous slide, we've got like 5,300 meters that we're in derelict of, so 300 a year, you can do the math, it's going to take a long time. before we're where we need to be.
Well, the first ones will almost be out of compliance by the time you put the last one
They
in.
certainly will be.
By the time you put the last ones in, they'll be 40 years old.
Right.
Right.
So, it's not my preferred strategy. The second strategy would be to, bond the money and do this as a project over the next 4 years. We could sub this work out, if you do this in a 2 to 4 year period, you're talking about a substantial amount of meters on a weekly basis to meet your target goal. Rather than adding a bunch of staffing to be able to do these appointments, there are companies that you could sub this out and pay them. So the fixed cost would be about $2.8 million, and the cost to install them all would be about 1.5. So, again, you're looking at a substantial amount of money to replace all the meters. This is kind of my least preferred option, only because, I just still feel like you bond a whole lot of money. So, when we did this in 2009, it cost us $2 million. Here we are in 2025, it's going to cost us, over $4 million. What's it going to be, 20 years from now? As soon as you pay down one bond, you're gonna take out another one to do meters again. I don't know. I feel like we should get on some sort of regular schedule so that it's just built into our rates that we manage our meters. The last strategy, this one caught me off guard, and I did not know about this 2 weeks ago. I did not provoke this, I didn't ask for this, but our vendor came in and they had a sales rep with them that represents a company that they sell a service, and their service is metering. So what they do is if we signed a contract with them, we would relinquish ownership of our meters. They would come in, they would be responsible for coordination, access to homes, change out all the meters. They would own the meters. We would have access to the software, so when it comes time to pull the reads out, we could get in there every day, get our information. And we only pay per meter that's working. So if they say, okay, we signed a contract, we're going to do this over a 2 year period, the first year they come in and say we're going to do 3,400, then we would pay X amount of dollars per meter times 3,400. If for some reason one of those meters stopped working or had a fault or something happened, we don't pay for it. They're responsible for coming down, fixing that meter, and getting it working again. It's pretty interesting.
We get an alert.
We would get an alert, they get an alert, we stop paying for it till they come down. Until they get it fixed and working, we don't pay for it. The cost of the program would be between, that shouldn't be a pound symbol, it should have been a dollar symbol, between $3 and $4 per meter per month. So you'd be costing you roughly $285,000 to $326,000 a year. And again, we would not own the meters anymore, we wouldn't be responsible for reading, final reads, all that stuff would be gone. This would also free up, right now we have a full-time employee, all he does is manage meters. If we don't own the meters anymore, we could reallocate his time to other things. We have plenty of stuff that we are wishing we could do, but we don't have enough people.
Like SCADA.
Like SCADA and other stuff. So this is a really appealing option to me. This vendor that came in, he actually felt that the revenue that we're losing, he is adamant that we are losing between 10 and 20% revenue. Both districts' budgets are around $4 million. 20% of that, that's a lot of money. We're talking, $400,000 to $800,000 a year we're losing because our meters are not accurate. This program would probably pay for itself the first several years, just if they come in and bang, replace them all.
Well, that's the question. When you
big
turn this over to them, they're gonna own the current meters, right? Because that is the point, which is, what's the revenue loss you have today that you're gonna capture? But when they do this, they're gonna take over the meters you have now?
No,
Over what period of time are they gonna replace those all?
So they told me that they would not delay it more than a 2 year install period. So if we signed a contract, we would still own all the meters that are out there, but as they replace them, the new meters going in, we would not own the new meters.
And they say they're gonna replace them all in 2 years.
They're going to replace every meter in Auburn within a 2 year window, whether they were an iPro that was just installed 2 weeks ago, they would replace every meter in the system in a 2 year period. He said they may do it all in 1 year. But depending on scheduling, they said it would be in less than 2 years.
Other main districts signing on to this yet?
I think this was the first time this guy's gone around and elected the today I inquired more information about this today, and I got five references. There's a couple of them from upstate New York. I got one from Michigan and one from Louisiana. I did not follow up on any of these. They did send me copies of their contracts, and they sent me the contact information for the water systems that are under contract. So again, I just heard about this a week and a half ago.
Can you shut the water off for these new meters?
No.
Okay. So it's not like if the company goes out of business or there's a problem, there's not going to be an interruption in water for our customers.
Right. So I did ask that question. That was one of my questions. I'm like, so what happens if 5 years into this, we don't like where this is going and we don't want you doing this service anymore? He said basically they would have an independent auditor come in. They would assess a value of the meters, the reading equipment, and we would have to come to an agreement on what the buyout would be. So essentially we'd have to buy the equipment, which we'd be looking at doing now if we wanted a bond to do this anyways. So that, they would obviously be depreciated over, if they were 5 years old, this is what they would be worth. He said they haven't had a customer do that yet because everybody's been so satisfied.
Good.
But it's interesting. I'm not looking for the boards to make a decision. As I said, I presented this to the sewer board as well. I'm just trying to get your wheels turning on water meters, and I really would like to investigate these strategies further and keep you updated on this in the coming months, because I really do feel this is an important project that we need to look at taking on in the next year. And at the very least, whether we adopt a strategy in 25 and start preparing a budget to replace meters, or prepare to sign a contract to pay for meters as a service, one or the other. Because we're losing a lot of money. At some point too, we're gonna lose access to federal funding. As a water system, it's our job to make sure that we're billing accurately, and if our meters if we're 30% unaccounted for water, we're derelict in our duties.
Lucy used to say to Ricky Ricardo, "You got some splaining to do."
Yeah.
So if you're losing a lot of money to the customers who get the new meters, it's going to feel like they got a rate increase or something like that. So that's going to have to, if we do this, there's going to have to be some messaging, I think, to let them know that they've been getting a free ride. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, they've done pretty well on that.
Yeah.
But that's the way they're going to read it.
Right.
Well, that's the whole CMP debacle.
Oh yeah.
Right, it's the same thing,
Yeah.
as you know very, very well. The other thing.
That took 2 years, but.
Right. The other thing to remember, Mike, if you do this, it then becomes a contract administration job. And these service contracts like this, don't underestimate the amount of work it takes to manage the vendor.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you got their contract. You want to see what's in there, and you're going to have someone, finance director or somebody who's going to manage this.
Yeah. No, it's still going to be work to do. When a customer's meter, we get calls all the time that, meter frozen broke. We've got new buildings going in. Who installs those meters? This is all per the contract. They're supposed to do this.
Right.
Well, there's management in that. So yeah, again, I'm not telling you I'm 100%. You have to do strategies. See, I'm intrigued by this. And I'm more focused on the overall problem of the 30% unaccounted for water right now, and really trying to figure out the best strategy for the Auburn Water District and the Auburn Sewer District to get this figured out.
Is there any impact on this year's draft budget from any of this? Did you put an estimate or placeholder for any option?
I did put, so you don't see it in here, but I have started roughing together our equipment and capital budgets, and I did pencil $200,000 in for meters. At the very least, I feel like we need to replace the meters on our commercial accounts, the ones where we're losing the most amount of money, those larger meters. So Right now, I have that penciled in. Matt is back now. Again, I met with him today. Our big focus in the next month is to put everything to the side. We need to talk about capital projects. So that may change, but right now I'm looking at about $200,000 for just changing out those larger meters. So,
It's good to know there's competition for this option you presented just now.
yeah, there's different options. And there may be, maybe I'll find another option by the time we talk about this again, but I would think you're gonna see this on old business for the next several meetings, and I'll keep presenting strategies and numbers for what we find to you.
Is the capital project breakdown in this one?
No.
Okay, that's
No.
what I was checking.
Are there other meter vendors that provide the same service?
I need to look into that. I don't know the answer to that. I had never heard of this before, and like I said, they just walked into my office. It's so EJ Prescott now sells what's called Chemstruck meters. This guy works for Chemstruck, and it's a service that they sell with their meters. And I've never heard anybody from Census ever telling me about this. When Census is now sold by another company, it's not Pollard Waterworks, and it doesn't matter. We met with their new salesman, and they didn't mention anything about this. I did tell them, I said, well, you know, we need to figure out our meter situation here in the next 20 years, so we're going to be probably pricing this out. I would like to, whatever we decide to do, I want to put it out to bid, and I don't know I don't know the answer. Should I stick with Census? Should we go with Camstrup? Should we go with Neptune meters? There's a million types of meters out there.
Well, do you care as long as they meet the specification?
I don't really care. Well, I want to make sure that we have good accessibility to meters,
Sure.
that they meet the specifications, and that they're as technologically advanced as they can be. I don't want to buy something
Right.
and find out 5 years from now, oh, I should have bought the other one. You know, that's the stuff I want to work on, and then figure out a strategy. Okay, once we select the equipment we want, what are we going to do here? So that's kind of where we're working on it. Again, this was just meant to be an FYI to get your wheels turning and understanding this as a problem for the districts.
We cover some of the loss of the sales, water sales.
Yeah, definitely important stuff.
Okay, last item on, are we all set here?
Yep.
Okay, last item on new business is district telecommuting policy.
Yes, so as you know, we've had a lot of turnover in the last few years. We've hired a number of administrative professionals here, whether it be assistant superintendent, to finance directors, to watershed managers. One thing that I have encountered in doing interviews for administrative professionals is since the onset of COVID, there is a large demand for people to be able to work from home. Currently, the district does not have a policy on telecommuting or working from home. We do not allow anybody to work from home. We did have to make special exceptions during COVID, but when the pandemic was lifted, everybody comes back to work. So everybody works in person. I will tell you, we have lost a number of qualified candidates over the years because we don't have a work from home policy. We've been fortunate, we are now at full staff, but I have promised people that while we don't currently have a policy, that I would look into this. And if it makes sense for both the district and the employee to adopt a policy to enable people to still get their jobs done and, you know, be able to work from home, then we could do that. So I spent quite a bit of time developing this. As you can see, it's a number of pages. It's pretty thorough. I will admit, there are a couple of typos in here. I'm not looking for your vote on this today. I think I did have that in the memo, but I want to just introduce this to both boards. On page 3, there is one statement there that the assumption is that they would be able to work at home up to 3 days per week. I really want that to be 2, not 3.
Yeah.
And there was one other little thing that we had seen last night.
It was just about the combining the days?
Which
so
days
common
are
days.
mandatory.
Yeah.
Again, Mondays around here are always, I always say Mondays, don't ask anything extra of me, because on Mondays you're trying to figure out what happened around here on the weekend. Do we have water breaks? Do we have problems at the treatment plant? Everybody should be here on Monday. It's a day I try not to take days off because it's usually my busiest day of the week, trying to juggle that type of stuff.
And if you get a holiday, it's gonna be Tuesday.
Right. So anyways, things like that I still want to straighten out, but again, I've run this through our property and casualty insurer MMA. They're fully supportive of this as long as we have a policy. And everything here looks in line with what other districts have for their policies.
Mike, last night you said something about getting hurt at home. It's not considered an OGI, is it?
If you did not have this policy exempts us from liability if somebody gets hurt from home, and that's stated in here. You know, we're not responsible. It's their employee's responsibility to have a safe work environment. Again, that's why I don't allow people to do it now, because I don't have a policy to protect us. And our insurer says, well, you shouldn't be allowing that without a policy. So I feel like this covers us, but again, I'm just going to introduce it and expect to see it on a coming agenda for approval. If you have any comments on this, you know, feel free to email me, and I will update this version.
A worker is expected to work as many hours at home as they would here at the office.
Absolutely, everybody's going to be expected to still work their normal hours, 40 hours a week, and it's all normal employment rules are still applied. They're obligated to maintain a schedule, and they're obligated to be available, to call them. We're communicating through, you know, email, text, phone calls. They need to be accessible. So if the employees is not in good standing with their employment here, they're not eligible for this policy. So if there's been some issues, then they got to work in person until they get that stuff under control. So it's got a lot of checks and balances, and it's pretty robust. So if you see anything in here, let me know. I did plan to go over this with Phil to compare it to the city's policy. I do know they allow administrative folks to work from home. I was supposed to meet with them this week, but I wasn't able to. So I will go over that with them. Just want to be consistent. So.
Great.
That's that.
All right, moving on to old business, water quality.
All right, water quality in the lake has continued to be superb. I think I threw a graph in there, shows you our clarity trend. The water in the lake is spectacular. So we're very appreciative of that. Phosphorus numbers are low. Turbidity is low, meaning the clarity is very good. It's excellent. So, you know, all we can attribute it to is the high rate of turnover over the winter and into the spring. All the phosphorus that came in from the runoff got flushed out of the lake. It looks in really good shape, so that's good.
The boards at the outlet.
Yes,
have
we
been
did
replaced?
have to, not yet. We ran into some problems with the boards that we had in stock. We had to order some new boards. So we're going to be doing the dam boards next week.
Thank you.
Those damn boards.
Yes.
All right, LCRR inventory submitted.
All right, this was a huge hurdle. We did submit our inventory last Wednesday to EPA. I'm happy to announce that our inventory recorded 0 lead services in Auburn, 0 galvanized lines requiring replacement, and we did have several unknowns. So we do have 10 years to remove any lead services, which we don't have any there to worry about, and to determine all of the unknowns. So we need to keep working on this so we can say if somebody is, you know, the unknowns are copper, galvanized, plastic, or what they are. And if we do find any lead, we need to then report it and remove it.
The unknowns are on the residential side?
We do still have 800 unknowns on our side. That's where if our Vector truck had been working all summer, we would have been hydro excavating and checking the boxes. But we do have about 800 on our side. The remaining 2,800 are on the customer side. I would like to run the summer intern program that we had this year, which was very successful. I'd like to run that all next summer. We achieved about 30% last summer. If we pull another 30%, that'll be another 900 out of the 34. So I'd like to run that again next year. We're still getting, we got 18 surveys between last week and this week. So people are still submitting the data and following, but we've been less pushy lately because we don't have the interns to do the work. So we're going to be making another push. So yeah, good news is we've met our requirement with EPA and we're lead free. So it's good news.
Excellent. All right, you mentioned the finance director. Next, we have a staff update.
Yes, so as I've said a couple of times, we have a finance director now. His name's Michael Bailey. He started for us yesterday. He worked for Baker Newman and Noyes, one of the largest audit firms in the state of Maine, for the last 10 years. He was an audit manager. He actually oversaw several audit teams that did audits, financial audits for banks around the state. He lives down in Gray. He is a CPA, very smart individual. He actually, as part of the interview process in his second interview, I asked him to give me a presentation on our audit. So I gave him our audited statements, and he gave us a presentation, and I learned things about the district that I didn't even know. So needless to say, he gave a very good presentation. Very smart individual. We're excited to have him. Matt is back to work, so he started back yesterday. It's great to have him back in the group, and it's already taken a weight off my shoulders. I can tell you it's been great. So I'm really looking forward to getting to a lot of things that we've been kind of kicking down the road for a while because we've been understaffed. Our crews are fully staffed, both water and sewer, and I will tell you we have a great group on board. Everybody is clicking and getting lots of work done, and I couldn't be happier with everybody we have. So it's good.
You hired the right people.
We've got it for now. I don't want to get too excited because I don't want to lose it, but we're doing good. So yeah, that's what I got on staff update.
Good news. Okay, moving on, we have SCADA agreements.
All right, sorry, I know we've been running these in succession here. About a year ago, I presented to both of the boards that our SCADA, what's SCADA? System Control and Data Acquisition. Basically, SCADA controls all of our outside facilities. So the water treatment plant, our water storage tanks, our water booster stations, our pressure reducing valves, all of this equipment that we have out in our distribution system, it all communicates back to the office here through radio telemetry, and it displays pressure trends, water elevation trends, pump trends, all that information. It alarms out if a pump dies in the night, our guys get called. If the water level drops because we have a water main break on Mill Street, our guys are immediately notified. That's our SCADA system. Prior to 2001, the district employed one full-time electrician. While he was knowledgeable electrical code, he lacked programming and radio telemetry skills necessary for station communication and SCADA development. So prior to 2001, we had no SCADA. We basically relied on a teledialer that would be an automated thing that would call you out from a dedicated phone line from each station. So it was kind of but that's the way things were, in 2001. After 2001, we signed a contract with the City of Lewiston for Interlocal Agreement Number 4. Interlocal Agreement Number 4 shared Lewiston's SCADA technician with the Auburn Water and Sewer District 50% of the time. So we started paying for half of his salary and wages, and he was available to the Auburn Water and Sewer Districts. In 2012, when we built the new UV facility, it was recognized that the one guy spending half his time in Auburn and half his time in Lewiston was not nearly enough. So the district, who needed to replace their electrician who retired, hired Rod Hill, who became our SCADA guy, and we made an amendment to Interlocal Agreement Number 4 so that we share our guy with Lewiston, they share their guy with us. And between the two of them, these guys were incredible for many, many years. And they actually developed our SCADA systems to the point where still to this day, other utilities are calling like, hey, can we send our SCADA guy to see what your guys have done? I just did this for Dover, New Hampshire about 2 weeks ago. They sent up 3 SCADA guys so they could get a rundown and see how we have done what we do. Engineering firms call us all the time and get our advice on how we build our control panels and how we do this to report back to SCADA.
Rod builds his own control panels.
We build all of our own controls, and others recognize that ours are superior, and they want to do it just like us. So again, they've done an incredible job. What's changed? Well, back during COVID, we had to say, okay, you two guys that always work together, you go in your truck and you go in your truck and you work on this stuff and you work on that stuff. So they stopped working together every day because of COVID. Well, they communicated, but they stopped working directly together. Then unfortunately, there was a retirement in Lewiston with the electrical superintendent who's in charge of all the street lights and all the electrical stuff in Lewiston. They promoted in an interim basis their SCADA guy to that electrical superintendent position. Well, in that interim, they had no SCADA guy. So the Auburn SCADA guy, who was shared, carried the load of the two SCADA positions. He also started carrying the on-call responsibilities for the Lewiston guy because he was on call for the streetlights now in Lewiston. So our guys started covering for Lewiston about 5 years ago. In that transition, they wound up permanently promoting the former Lewiston SCADA guy to the electrical superintendent role on a permanent basis. They then backfilled that position with somebody who was already internal to Lewiston but had zero experience in SCADA. So they said over a 1 year period, we'll train him and then get him to where he needs to be, and then he can be back on call and help with SCADA. But unfortunately, right when he got trained, he left employment with Lewiston, so that never came to fruition. They then they hired another guy internally who, again, had no previous experience with SCADA. And unfortunately, this has been going on now for over 2 years, where he's supposedly training, and when he's ready, he'll be able to help out. But this has now gone on 5 years where our guy's been covering the load. We're still paying for half of their guy, but he doesn't come and work here half the time. He doesn't help support. Our guy does all the work up at the UV facility because he's the only one who knows, how to troubleshoot these things and make the repairs. It's an overburden on the Auburn Water and Sewer District. So last year, I went to both boards and I presented this problem. Both boards gave me the okay to negotiate changing or terminating this interlocal agreement number 4 to our benefit. So again, I did meet with our legal counsel. Technically, Lewiston is not in default. They are still paying for half of our guy. They are paying for if our guy is covering the on-call of their guy, we're being compensated for that. So they're not technically in financial default. And we continue to pay for half of their technician. Well, one, because it says in the contract we will, but despite the fact that we're not getting to utilize him. Again, I think I've already stated that we're the primary point of contact for SCADA and electrical needs at the water plant. Creates a disparity. There's always been historical issues too. The Lewiston guy is union, our guy is non-union. They have different sets of employment rules. He gets double time on Sunday, our guy doesn't. We have this holidays, they have that holidays. It's always been kind of a nightmare dealing with that. So that's another problem. I've addressed this in writing 3 separate occasions with Lewiston. I've had 4 meetings with them, their upper management, saying, hey, we need to resolve this, we need to change this. Unfortunately, it always gets kind of pushed along, oh, we're going to fix this, we're going to get the Lewiston guy in there. Well, 5 years, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to what it was. That's just not going to work for us anymore. I did draft and send Lewiston a new proposed agreement. This would replace interlocal agreement number 4. I do have a meeting with them next Monday to go over that. What I'm looking to do in January of 2025 is I want to hire another SCADA technician. We have been asked by the Clean Water Authority in Lewiston to provide SCADA and electrical needs services to them. They would contract with us where we provide that. It covers all of our costs and it brings in revenue to the district to help offset the cost of adding this other person. The nice part about this is they would have one employer, not, we have this contract where we share this guy that works for somebody else. This would make this a lot easier. AWSD would retain the primary point of contact for SCADA needs at the UV facility. Any work that they do or any services that they provide, our now team of 2 SCADA guys would be billed to the city of Lewiston per our current agreements of 50-50. Again, this is more revenue that would come in and help offset the cost of hiring a second person. We'll continue to make agreements with neighboring utilities. Right now, I don't know if you all know this, but we have contracts with the Newport Water District, the Mechanic Falls Water District, and we have been repoached several times. We sent SCADA guy down to New Gloucester this week, and we've been reproached by the Parish Utility District and Lisbon. Again, everybody wants what Rod can do. And if we have a team of people and we can spare their time, it brings in revenue, offsets our costs. Again, this new format provides redundancy for the district, provide a second qualified staff member for on-call responsibilities, and it eliminates the shared employee issues of union non-issues, non-union issues, reduces costs to the Auburn ratepayers by sharing our staff with other entities, and reduces the impacts. So that's all good. This is kind of a breakdown on the numbers. This is what we're currently paying right now. This is what our employee costs. This is what Lewiston pays us for reimbursement for our employee. This is what we pay Lewiston for reimbursement of their employee. This is what the vehicle and equipment costs. This is what we're currently generating for revenue from the wastewater authority for our current contract with them. And this is what we're bringing in from those other utilities that I listed on an annual basis. If we hired 2 employees, this is what it would cost us. We would be getting reimbursed $68,000 from LACWA. I'm anticipating about $56,000 from the UV operations as we bill stuff out to that organization. Contracted services, we would bring in around $22,000 a year. And again, Lewiston's share of the UV at $28,000. Again, it's going to cost us a little bit more, but we're going to have more redundancy, and I think it's going to be a more sustainable program. So that's where I'm at with all of this right now. This is kind of the end of the slideshow. But I am currently working on this. Like I said, I have a meeting with Lewiston on Monday next week. I'm hopeful that I've already sent this to them. I sent the new agreement to them 3 weeks ago. So they've read it, they understand it. I don't have any reason to believe that they won't do this.
And the 1 year notice that you mentioned yesterday, alerting them?
Yeah, so back a year ago when I got the board's okay to do this, I worked with Mike Hodgins. We crafted a letter and we sent that out where we basically called out like, hey, we're not following the agreement. This is a problem, we need to fix this as soon as possible.
So they've gotten their 1 year notice that you want to change it?
They've gotten their notice. So, yeah, that's where we're at with that. I just want you all to be aware. That's where we're at.
So Mike, let's assume they do this. Is Lewiston actually going to be able to do theirs? And the reason I ask that is if they can't, would we hire more people and charge a fee to them with some markup, just like we are with these other folks?
That's an interesting question, and I think you're spot on with it. Their first thing to me was say, well, what are we going to do with this employee? His job title is SCADA. I said, well, he's been doing it for 5 years. What's the difference? I don't think his heart's going to be broken. Well, how's he going to get the training that he needs to learn how to run our SCADA system? I said, well, you could contract with us for an hourly rate, and we'll be more than happy to train or to help him run your system.
We've been training for years.
Well, exactly. So, yeah, that would be the answer. It's no longer going to be this just an expectation that we pay for theirs, they pay for ours. It would be, if you need us, yes, I'd be happy to have an agreement with Lewiston that says that we'll meet on a regular basis to make sure our systems are compatible and universal, so they can, if we do get in a jam and our 2 people are out of commission, I'd like to pay for their guy at an hourly rate. If I need them over here, vice versa. If they get in a jam, they need our guys, here's the hourly rate that LACWA's paying and every other organization's paying. This is what it costs. Again, I think just getting away from those two separate employers, sharing employees, it's just a nightmare.
And like Jeff said, if they want us to train their person in SCADA, then we charge them for the training.
Sure.
Or even because what we're really saying with this is Auburn's going to take care of the Auburn part, and that includes the UV plant. We'll bill you for your half of that. That's going to leave them in a situation with a guy who probably doesn't know what he's doing, because if he did, they wouldn't still say he's in a training mode. So they may plead, we're going to be in trouble if we do this, and I think the answer to that is, okay, well, we'll take the whole thing over. You contract with us like these other water utilities do.
Yeah, no, that's actually part of my talking point with them, that I'm kind of anticipating, because I was already hit with that question as I said this, well, our guy's SCADA, what are we going to tell him? He's not going to do SCADA anymore? Well, he's been doing it for 5 years. So yes, that is part of the discussion for Monday. So, and I'll bring back, obviously before I sign a contract, I will have both boards review whatever the final terms will be.
Mike's been carrying them on his back
Oh, yeah, I
for
get it.
long enough.
Well, it hasn't really been me, it's been Rod Hill.
Well, that's what I mean, Rod Hill, he's a good thing, he's got strong shoulders.
Yes.
All right.
Because he is tops,
He really is.
tops.
Keep us posted on how that goes.
Yep.
Okay, next up, commission update.
All right, just to keep you guys updated, the Watershed Protection Commission formed a subcommittee to develop a septic inspection policy, outline a staff plan for the work, and pull together their preliminary budget numbers. We did have a watershed meeting last week. We did hire a new watershed manager. Her name is Danielle Olson. I'd actually like her to come to our next water trustee meeting and present to us on how we're going to propose to complete these septic inspections, and again, hopefully be a brief 5-minute presentation on that. We have been meeting, we have developed a budget for this. At the commission meeting this last week, the ask is basically going to be a $50,000 per year increase to what the district currently pays towards the commission. This covers the cost of the actual inspections, and it also covers the management of the program. It's a lot of money, and I feel like it deserves an explanation, so that's what I would like her to give at next month's meeting.
Is that in their budget? Oh, it's,
I do not have their
Don't
updated
have
draft
it.
budget numbers in there, so yeah, that's not in there for right now. They haven't finalized
The
that.
first year ask would be 30 because we get the 20.
We do have a $20,000 grant for both utilities, so actually $40,000.
Right.
So,
And the other thing too that's notable is they're asking for 100, but they're estimating their first year cost at 78.
so they'd be banking
They're banking a
some
little bit.
money to, because the first year of the program, you're only doing 50 inspections, whereas years 3, 4, and 5, you're closer to 80. So if you start banking more money now, you'll be prepared for when you do the years more inspections. So anyways, just be prepared for that, and we will have that presentation on the whole program at the next meeting.
While we're on the watershed, on the operating statement for 8 months ended August 31, 2024, about what, how many pages? 3 pages into the packet. The very last item under expenses, the Lake Auburn watershed, we're over budget for our 85,000. And this is only up to August, so we've still got September, October, November, and December. I'm wondering, I was under the understanding that we pay them this, we give the watershed commission
It's just a
same
time.
amount,
This
same amount every
is
month.
just a timing thing, Bob. We're actually
But
gonna,
we're over budget already, so.
yeah, but we're not actually over budget.
uh,
It's just a timing of when we make payments to them. And that's why it's shown on there. We're actually gonna be the commission is gonna be under their budget for this year, because they haven't employed an education and outreach person they haven't employed them at all this year. So that money that we paid to them for that, they haven't utilized it. They also haven't utilized several of their other funds because they haven't had an employee there. So that's just a timing thing of why it looks like we're over budget, but we're not.
So we'll find it's gonna be close to a wash at the end of the year.
We're gonna be right on target with what we budgeted to pay the commission.
Okay, thank you.
And the commission will have excess funds available from their fund balance because of their lack of spending this year to put towards the inspection program next year. So it's a
Thank you.
win-win. Yep.
great. Okay. Workflow efficiency study?
Yes, last thing I've got for you in your packets right behind the telecommuting policy, you will see that there's a proposal there to automate our payroll. We have been working with Rayburn Consulting. We got a grant for $30,000 to do this investigation, to look at our utility billing, to look at our financial accounting software, to look at our payroll steps, to look at everything. One low-hanging fruit that we would like to jump on is automating our payroll. Right now, we do our payroll through NDS, which is our utility billing. We get our time from our work order system, so we manually input every hour of every employee's time from the work order system into NDS to calculate and distribute payroll. We also manually do the tracking for PTO. We manually do the tax filing, the contributions towards retirements. It's all, everything we do is manual entries. We can automate this whole process, factor in all of our policies, automate PTO, automate tax filings, automate this entire process for $80.20 per week. It's $4,000 a year. It'd be $2,000 to each district. I'd like to get this going this year. The reason why I'd like to get it going this year is so that next year we have an entire year where you went through this one payroll software rather than having a split year like we're going to wind up with this year if we switch over. It's going to take 6 to 8 weeks to stand this up, so that I just want to have it ready so come January 1 we'll be on the new payroll software. We also need to be prepared for a pending retirement. Diane, who's been doing our payroll for 29 years.
Is she the last of the Dianes?
Yes.
Used to be 3 of them, right?
No, Diane
Oh.
Tribal, no.
There's just 2?
So Diane has let us know that she very well could be retiring next year. So I just want to make sure that we get this all stood up with her expertise, and get this all up and running and ready for us. So yeah, I think the savings that we're going to have on time, again, I don't know how many hours a week you spend on this right now, Diane, but it's quite a bit. It's a lot. It's 90% of Diane's time doing this, and we can automate all of that and allocate our time for other stuff. So it's going to save us a tremendous amount for $80 a week. So yeah, the sewer board did vote on it, but wanted to recognize based off from the savings of time and.
Do you have that motion so we
Yeah, I
can
was
put
just
it
going to
forward?
say, you could use the same motion.
Do you remember how?
I don't have it.
It wasn't made very well.
No,
It was just so moved from us.
You're gonna approve on it for us then?
I'd like to move that based on the apparent savings offered by automation of the payroll, that the board finds that it would be cost effective to approve moving forward with the automation of the payroll.
that's how it went.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Further discussion? All in favor?
Awesome.
Okay.
How many years now will that be?
I'll be 30 years
Oh,
in
you get
June.
the gold one.
30
So
years
that's-
in June.
You get a gold one.
Down there. Trustee open session. Is anybody else
We get that in the budget? Gold one
have
for
anything
Diane?
to bring up for trustee open session? The only thing I would mention is that we did mention if anyone had any comments or thoughts about the bylaws, our administrative bylaws for the AWD, to submit them. I haven't heard from anybody, so just keep it open-ended. If someone has the time and would like to roll up their sleeves and look in there, and if there's anything that they would like to engage in to discuss, let's keep that open.
I just want to follow that up with what, Evan Sear made a pretty good recommendation that we should review it annually, but then he clarified it and said, just training on them, for when new board members come on board.
Yep.
Just a kind of an annual exercise, either with Hodgen or Mineral Water does it too.
Did you say there was something that you had planned for that? I thought. you
Yes,
suggested
so
something,
I
but
did
can't
reach
remember.
out to, Maine Water Utilities Association does do trustee training. And I reached out to them prior to our last meeting and asked what they're gonna be offering for training in 2025. And they did tell me that they're gonna have offerings. And, one of those offerings is gonna be on Robert's rules, bylaws, and that type of stuff. So I would like to, it's not specific to our bylaws, but it's specific to districts and operation. So once that training date has been made available, I will forward it to all trustees if you want to sign up for it.
Does the city do anything like that for counselors? Is there any kind of training?
We have a whole orientation thing after each election for the counselors.
So this is 2025, we don't know when that one would be, but it sounds like it's not specific to our bylaws, so we may want to schedule something
Yeah.
in the not too distant future with, I guess it would be.
Let me talk with
Mike
Phil.
Hodgins.
I like to talk with Phil, see what they do, and run it by Mike and see what we would have to do as part of our training, what that would look like.
Could even be as simple as a workshop to review our details of our bylaws maybe with or without the attorney. Probably without, just everything.
So Mike, I think the better example is the planning board. So the last 2 years, the city attorney did a training for the planning board. And provided them a packet and went over all kinds of things from forward, how to run meetings, to different rules they had to follow. Did a really good job, so that would be, I think, the closest example of what we're talking about.
I
Phil-
swear,
Phil
now that
can
you say
fill
that,
in
we
on
did
it.
something like that with Jim Pross, where we went over, because he had a whole thing about the
He did give a
rules.
rundown on it, and you know, it was right after we developed those. What year was that? 2018 or 19? Yeah, he did come in and do a training on it. Might be something where we just need to rehash that and develop like a PowerPoint of things and have that,
Yeah.
so if somebody gets newly elected to the board or appointed to the board, you could, you know, hand this over and like, hey, read down through this.
And the planning board, it didn't matter whether they were newly appointed or not. They did it mandatory training each of the last 2 years. They had a thing in there about Robert's rules and, you know, so everybody was on the same page of what they were supposed to be doing.
Okay.
Think about it, I guess.
Yeah.
See what-
See what we can come up with.
Anybody else for trustee open session?
You said next meeting there'll be a cost sharing update?
We will, what's the agenda for next, we have
We will have an executive session with our attorney to go over that at the next meeting.
okay. All right, anybody else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second? All in favor? Unanimous. Thanks, everyone.